Greetings, travelers, and welcome back. You might remember this game. It's Awesomenauts. It had been a while since I played Awesomenauts, and today when I jumped into it, lo and behold, I discovered they had added another character. I'd like to introduce Nibbs, sort of a dragon sort of character in a spacesuit. I don't really know what to call her, but there she is. Nibbs is a pretty interesting hero. I'm glad to see that they're adding new heroes, in fact. You know, new games tend to get created and then they fall from popularity and then development ceases. But with Awesomenauts, the development seems to keep going on. I mean, it felt like it was just recently that they added Scoop, who happens to be on our team at the moment. However, I think he quickly disconnects and is replaced by Froggy G. So you won't see him much in this game. But anyways, this is Nibbs. Nibbs is a dragon creature. Her abilities include the first one being Orb. If you're familiar with Dota 2 and Puck, Orb is similar to Puck's illusionary orb. What Nibbs does is sends out an orb and it kind of bounces around, which is nice so it doesn't like get stuck on one spot. It bounces around if it hits anything and it stops and hovers there for a few moments. If you activate the ability again, you immediately teleport to wherever that orb is at. So you can teleport while it's still in flight. You can wait until it stops. It's just kind of a nice way to get around or evade deaths and that kind of thing. Nibbs' second ability is, I don't know exactly what the title is, but it's basically Breathe Fire. Nibbs stands in one place and breathes fire for about 3, maybe 4 seconds. I don't remember exactly. I guess I take a look. It looks okay. Here, Fire Breath. Hold your position and unleash your fiery breath on your foes. It does 15 damage, which I'm guessing is per second, and a duration of 1.5 seconds. Oh, attack speed. I don't know how the math works on that, but it does a lot of damage early on. And there's Orb of Omicron. It does 200 damage, which from what I eventually figured out, it only does damage when you pop out of the illusory orb. Like if you just hit them with it, it doesn't seem to do damage. I might be mistaken. Maybe I was doing it wrong, but either way, it does 200 damage. Cooldown of 7 seconds, range of 40, speed 18. It moves pretty quickly. I mean, it moving too slowly is never going to be an issue. If it's going to be an issue, you're already dead. So, and as you see there, hold position. So as soon as it reaches the end of its distance, it'll stay in place for about 2 seconds. And it'll give you those 2 seconds to pop to it or just stay where you're at. Oh, and I forgot to completely mention, we are in fact in a replay. This was recently added, I think even since our last gameplay when I went through Scoop. So this is kind of nice. It gives me a chance to talk a little more freely. I don't have to focus nearly as much on the gameplay. And then I can also kind of tell you guys about how it went, some of my item choices, and whether I thought they benefited me and whether it was the right choice or not. We are in fact playing against a Penny, a Na, and a Leon. These characters do in fact stay the same throughout the whole entire battle. So we shall go ahead and start the battle as such. Now anytime we're on this map, I always try to get out here early and grab this little invis. It may prove to lead to a kill, first blood, sometimes it may not. It's usually just more to keep the enemies from getting it than anything else. I don't think I end up getting much with it this time around. And there in fact is the Fire Breath. That's the first ability you saw. They stood still. Another feature in fact of Nibbs, if you saw these little 4 bars that appear in Nibbs, those happen each time you swipe. And what that does is with each stack, you attack just a little bit faster, and I believe do a little bit more damage. I think if we take a look, and it doesn't show under the item spot, unfortunately. As you can see, I'll attack a little bit faster with each stack. They do decay after a little bit if I haven't attacked anything recently. It's pretty useful. You can buff them up to get more damage per stack, but I found I kind of like to go with a little bit more of an earlier build. Oh, and there goes the Orb of Omicron. I wasn't going to teleport to it because I would have gotten way behind enemy lines and most likely died. But anyways, as I was saying, I decided to go with more of a early build, and I kind of buffed up my Fire Breath ability and my Orb ability. I found Nibbs is quite good at dealing with some of those pesky little plants because, you know, if she stands there attacking them, then... Oh, was that our first blood? It's pretty close.
Make some noise for the frog.
I found Gnaw's poison to be quite annoying in this one. And pretty much anytime you play against Gnaw, you want to pick up the health regen item. This is available to almost all heroes, I believe. I don't think there's any heroes that don't have access to it. But I found that it saved me so many times from death because even though you're ticking away from his poison, you're still getting that passive regen, and you'll always have that little bit of health left over from even if he ticks down to nearly death. So, just a little tip for any time you're playing against Gnaws. It's usually pretty helpful to pick up that little thing. I picked up first Medican because I found that Nibbs is actually really squishy, tiny health pool, and with Gnaw constantly poisoning me, I didn't want to have to keep running back nearly as much. I had to farm these neutrals quite a lot during the first part of the match. Fire Breath quite often is the best counter push I've seen so far. You know, I haven't I mean, it attacks all things in the fire. I mean, I don't think there's any kind of what's the word for it? Decreasing efficiency. So like, it'll do the same amount of damage to 10 heroes, individually that is. It'll do the same amount of damage as it would 5 heroes. So, no matter what kind of a wave they have stacked up, it's a great sort of counter push ability. Okay, so yeah, I do in fact have Froggy G back on my team. As you'll probably begin to see, this guy just kind of wrecks house against these guys. I try to go a little aggressive. I get a little scared because I'm still pretty squishy, and with Penny's kind of armor reduction ability, I think they could probably melt me pretty fast if she just had one more kind of character, one more Awesomenaut to help her. So I tried to play a little passive and just try to counter push any of the lanes that they weren't in. So you'll see a lot of time I spend is kind of on my own. And see, just that little tick that she was in the fire for took away almost a quarter of her life. If you can catch even like a half duration, there's a good chance you will be able to take out one of the enemy Awesomenauts. See, and this is where I was kind of testing out the illusionary orb, and I was a little confused as to why it wasn't doing any sort of damage to her. Unfortunately, my illusionary orb was on cooldown, otherwise I probably would have tried to hop behind her. So, pretty passive game early on, only 1 kill to each side. Just trying to counter push and keep as much damage from the turrets as I could. Nibbs does in fact hover in the air when you use, well, it seemed to be inconsistent. Sometimes she would, sometimes she wouldn't. At least early on, and then later on it would be pretty consistent. I don't know, maybe I was missing something, but when you use her Fire Breath, there you go. If you use the Fire Breath in the air, she hovers in the air. That's pretty useful if you're fighting some of those guys that have abilities that go along the ground. Like, oh, what's that Viking guy's name? I don't remember, but he stomps the ground and, you know, the earthquake goes along the ground. It's really great to kind of hover in the air and avoid that ability of his while still getting your Fire Breath ability on him. Nibbs appears to have some sort of built-in cleave. Other heroes, you tend to have to kind of buy an item in order to attack all the enemies that are directly in front of you, but Nibbs seems to have that already built in. So she's just kind of like built from top to bottom as a counter push kind of Awesomenaut. Her Fire Breath does tons of damage. I was trying to fake her out there. That way if she continued to run after me, I could orb over to the other side and run around. But her Fire Breath does tons of damage to droids, and your swipes or cleaves to all the droids, and yeah. And you're very mobile. With your illusionary orb, you can get around the battlefield very quickly. Alright, so the next item I had picked up is Eternal Flame. It adds damage over time to fire breath. I picked this up for a couple of reasons. The first being that, see, often like that, you only got a fraction of your duration on a person, on an Awesomenaut. There's an illusionary orb to get away. I was looking to see if maybe I could jump back in and offer a little bit of help. Unfortunately, it led to my death. But the reason I bought Eternal Flame is usually when I'm going against Invis Hero. If you use Eternal Flame against an invisible hero, you'll continue to see the numbers tick from them, the damage, even if they're invisible. So it's a great way to track invisible heroes. Plus, as I was going to say, the damage over time is really a great way to kind of pick off those near escapes, because almost never you're going to get the full damage of fire breath out. You have to kind of have some sort of hero with lockdown. Unfortunately, we didn't really have that. I mean, Froggy G might have his stun on occasion, but it doesn't last for very long at all. Lin Q, or I don't remember what that Awesomenaut is, but Lin Q in this game has her static field that kind of slows them down a little bit, but she seemed to be pretty hesitant to use it. See, like, she doesn't even have it leveled up as it appears. I don't know why. I think the static field with the droid spawn is almost mandatory in any kind of game, especially with 2 lanes. You gotta constantly keep pushed out. I'm guessing she was going for a max snipe build. But yeah, oh, let's go back to myself. And here I am back. So I pick up the Eternal Flame because it does the damage over time when you almost never get them the full duration. Plus, it reveals Invis heroes for a short duration that it's ticking. You know, that 6 seconds that you have that damage over time. Next, I picked up the Chocolate Monster Egg. What this does is it adds a shield, as you just saw there. Nice, I picked up my first skill. Was that my first skill? I think that was my first skill. It adds a shield when you're doing your fire breath. Whenever you do your fire breath, you're pretty much gonna put a big red target on your forehead. Most certainly to Invis heroes who are just waiting to come up behind you and kind of pick you off, because it makes those skill shots that much easier to land when you're standing still. So the shield is kind of mandatory. While some other things are very flexible in Nibbers, the shield is very mandatory, because anytime you use your fire breath, you want to be able to withstand that damage. Or even if you just get stuck in a bad position and you want them to kind of waste their ults on you. Ults. Jeez, I've been playing Dota 2 a little bit, and I'm bringing their terminology, which isn't applicable here. But when they apply their abilities, rather, they'll blow it on your shield, which even at the first level it reduces by 11%, but because you're so squishy, that 11% can go a long ways. And especially in terms of counter pushing, you might be able to tank a little bit more of the turret's damage. Not much, but some. Looks like I picked up another level of Eternal Flame because Invis heroes, you know. If I can apply the dot to him, he's still doing damage even if he managed to get away. Lucky for me, they had they had 2 squishy Awesomenauts on their team between Penny and Leon. They don't have a whole lot of health, so the damage over time goes a long way. And I do not, in fact, die here, but this is where... Oh, I do have the Medican. This is actually... Nope, I believe I misspoke earlier. This is what automatically regenerates my health over time. Often I'll pick it up just because I want more staying power. I don't want to be running back to base to heal a lot. But in this case, it proved to be invaluable against Null. Because as you just saw there, his poison was ticking away at me, and had I not had that passive health regen, I very likely would have died. But that little bit of health I managed to survive with, I'll teleport back to base and heal. And I think I picked up another level of it before the game was over. Another little tip. Fire Breath actually does work through walls, as you can see there. It's a great way to put in a little bit of damage without actually putting yourself in too much harm. It's not nearly as applicable on this level, and there aren't a ton of levels to work with. There are some of those levels that have a lot more layers to them, but it's still Still important when you can kind of hide in those areas. Kind of getting into a little bit of a bad area. That invis rune came up just at the right time. I was kind of hesitant to break the invis because I didn't want to. I was wondering maybe if I could set up a gank, but there was one dead and they were playing pretty defensively, so I was like, eh. So as you can see now, I'm able to just go back to neutrals and regen health pretty easily. And unless I'm at under half a health, I can just let my health passively regen on its own. Unfortunately, your Fury Swipe stacks don't stack up on turrets. I guess that'd be too little overpowered, but either way, when those droid waves comes up, you should try to stack up your Fury Swipes and then kill the droids. So that way you have your Fury Swipes to take on the tower and do a little more damage that way. And we just have a really aggressive push. Like, I can kind of play on the front lines, and so can Froggy G with his whirlwind stuff. And I have my shield. And see, we're already taking turrets quite early on, only at 13 minutes. Illusory Orb. I keep calling it Illusory Orb, but that's not what it's called. It's Orb of Omicron. Saving my butt there a little bit. But yeah, I can do damage up to the last second. I just orb out and I'm good. You might kind of see me kind of randomly swiping around. I'll do that a lot when I'm playing against invis heroes because it'll show a little damage tick if what guy is near me. Usually they're pretty smart and stay away from me, or stay away from any Awesomenaut unless they are looking to immediately start attacking, but it's a great way to make sure no one's like on your tail waiting to follow you. Got a nice kill there. Once we go ahead and take a look at the kills, you can see Froggy G is doing quite well. I got 1 kill and 2 deaths. I'm not doing too bad. Our sniper character, I cannot remember her name. And I played her quite a bit. See, that was a great fire breath there. I think I caught almost all 3 of them. At the very least, I caught 2 of them and a bunch of droids.
What did I say again?
Kept the push nice and close to their turret. Go back to our item spot. Now, if we take a look at the graphs, it was actually fairly even up until, you know, just here, where I believe most of this income is on Froggy G. I think the rest of the Awesomenauts are fairly comparable. But we are, in fact, ahead on our total solar. About this time, I'm looking at my solar. I'm like, I'm never going to end up having to go back to base. I have so much regen, so I better just go back and buy something. I decided to buy another level of Chocolate Monster Egg, and then pick up a couple levels of Power Pills Turbo. That just makes me even harder to kill between the regen, the shield, and just my big health pool. So you now see I can just play super aggressive. I can take a lot more damage before I have to worry about backing out. Steal their neutrals. Always useful. It does, in fact, your fire breath does in fact work through, as I said, walls and the little shield thing, whatever you would call that. Just trying to put some aggression on this tower. Unfortunately, I didn't quite get my orb out in time in order to save myself. Yeah. This Awesomenaut's going for the all snipe build, no static field, which in my opinion isn't great. Especially in this map where quarters can get really tight, I think a static field can be almost invaluable at times when they have such mobile heroes that they're playing with. But that's just my opinion. I mean, that she managed to not die very much, which I guess is something. Not dying means you're not feeding solar to the enemy. That wasn't really needed there. They did pretty much all the damage, but I was there to help anyways. If you're able to, if your Awesomenaut is able to, you should try to clear out those plants whenever you can. A lot of people who play will build a... I don't know exactly. I've never played a whole lot of but they'll build sort of a plant build. And I think like anytime a kill, they get a kill, like they'll plant their plants by the neutrals, and whenever the plants kill a neutral, they'll gain the health as well as bonus health from just killing the neutral. As you can see, I'm standing around doing very little. I think I was waiting for the droid wave to see if it would come up, or to see if the invis guy was anywhere around. Kind of saved my team's butt there. Juked him out a little bit. I went down, I shot the orb up, and then I kind of dropped down, and once they were down the hole, I popped back up to my orb, and there was no way they would have been able to jump up there. They apparently felt very threatened by me. Our sniper just stood there taking out droids, and they jumped over her and went straight for me. But there it is. Next I picked up some Starstorm statue. Always good to get a little more 5% damage. That was a little close. Took a bit too much turret damage there. I knew that they were dead, so I felt a little safer, but I was like, it is an invis guy that's alive. And then I saw him on the map and I was like, well, oh well. I'm back. I might as well fully restore my health. And Froggy G doing his thing. Picked up another Medican. At this is the point where I realized, you know, it saved my life so many times against Nah. There's no reason to not have it maxed out. And as you can see, the solar graphs just can't continue to go in our favor. Nah has some good counter push, but I don't think they have nearly the strong push that we do. At the very least, their team was not doing what they should. I was kind of happy about that little coincidence. I was just kind of guessing that maybe someone was taking out that little neutral back in there, and I completely countered any healthy gain from it, so that was kind of funny. Kind of see, hovering in the air, it makes it a lot harder for them to auto-attack me, and also makes them a lot harder to land any kind of hits that go along the ground. You know, aren't many, but there are some. I almost got her. I was hoping that the damage over time would finish her off, but I think she took out some neutrals and managed to live. You'll have to excuse my nose is a little bit stuffed up with some allergies at the moment. Wasn't the best fire breath there. Go ahead and hide that graph, don't need it. So I was like, no problem. 3 of your teammates, no matter. I just orb back and it's all good. They spent so much time trying to kill me, even though I was so ungankable. I don't know if that's the correct term for Awesomenauts, but I was so hard to kill because I had all this mobility that my Froggy G was able to get all the solar he needed and pick off kills, and he just did quite well. See, nah, he saw me get to the neutrals and he just completely gave up. He's like, I'm not going to kill him. He's just going to shield up and orb away. Just anytime there's a little bit of downtime, just go into the lane and push it towards the turret. I felt like my team didn't do nearly enough damage to the turrets. I felt like we could have taken some turrets a lot more early, the tier 2s, but... And also, I kind of felt my build tend to peak off a little bit. The fire damage wasn't doing nearly as much. I wasn't able to take out a wave of droids in just one. I definitely did feel like, probably at like maybe the, I don't know, 17 to 18 minute mark, my build was kind of losing its effectiveness. So I kind of started to pick up a few items. I don't know if I have yet, But at a certain point, I was like, well, I guess I better start picking up some left-click auto-attack abilities and start maybe playing a little more team fight oriented instead of this push-heavy kind of strat. And I guess our Lynn? Is that the name of the Awesomenaut? I don't think that's the name. Got caught out of place. Poison. Takes me out, unfortunately. Don't have quite enough regen at this point, and that's where I was like, I'm not doing the greatest. I guess I should pick up some more team fights. So at that point, I started picking up stuff that benefited my Fury Swipe, so maybe I could do damage, but at this point, Froggy G just had so much. I just kind of was hoping, relying on him to kind of take us to victory. He's still a little squishy. I think maybe had he played a little less effectively, he probably would have died more, but he seems to be quite a good player and managed to know when to get in and when to get out. So you can see Froggy G very mobile. They can't even keep up with him. He's just all over the place. So fast. He just runs around. Oh, I guess I'm back. Here I am. Once again, back to the pushing. He'll take out the Awesomenauts and I'll take out the turrets. Seemed like quite the deal. I try to help in team fights when I can. My Fire Breath does do a decent amount of damage to Awesomenauts. But as I said, it's not doing nearly as much. There is an item that boosts its effectiveness against Awesomenauts. Yeah, this one. Autographed Picture of Voran. Increases the damage of Fire Breath against enemy Awesomenauts. Makes me a little more effective in team fights. See, I burned him down quite a bit, but Froggy G ultimately was the cleanup crew there. Just taking out those flat plants. Never want to leave them if you don't have to. Barely saved the sniper there. Damage reduction, or that shield reduction, can really wreck you at times, but with my huge health pool, I seem to do alright for that point. You really gotta kind of play Nibbers according to whoever you're playing against. If you're playing against a really heavy push-heavy team, then probably going a Fire Breath build really is the way to go. If you're playing against some of the bigger, tankier guys, then maybe Fury Swipes makes more sense. Although Fire Breath can be pretty effective against them as well if they're not terribly mobile. Maybe a Fury Swipes build against these guys would have been quite more effective in terms of getting kills, but the counter push was also nice. So I guess you just gotta really play Nibbers according to the team you're against. There are certain Awesomenauts where it's just like, oh, this is standard. You pick this item in every single game. This was where I made a big mistake. I was like, I could have swore I was gonna grab that and get away. I was like, and then I turned just a bit too early and I was like, crap, I'm dead. But that was that. And picked up another Starstorm statue. More damage. Why not? I don't know if that's ever actually a good thing to buy. I don't know if the extra 10% is worth the item slot. Tibbers does, in fact, have on the last row of items an item that leaves a fire trail anywhere you go. And that might have been a little bit more useful in this game where they were chasing me around so much, but that's hard to say. And I'm back. I was like, oh, maybe I should look to buy something. Maybe. Window shopping. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll get a mobile analytic laboratory. Because I was using my orb so much to just kind of get in and get out, what this does is oh, that was a really good kill. I want to go back to that one. Let's go ahead and jump back 30 seconds. And I'll get back to what that item does. So I was like, okay. Well, you don't need to watch me buy items. So I get back in the battle and I was like, why do I see that guy up there? And I was like, oh, my teammate's up there. Move a little forward and I kind of see him up there. I was like, And I was like, why is the enemy not running? And he's like, oh, because he's invisible. And he's waiting for someone to set up a gate. So I orb in there, jump in there, and I believe my orb did damage since I did actually activate it. Fire Breath, and then Froggy G does the rest. That was a really great move for him, waiting for one of us to kind of make sure we took the kill. Now we finally take out another turret. I steal a solar because Froggy G doesn't really need it, but I guess it probably wouldn't have hurt to let him have it, just let him go boss mode.
36th century.
And just send him on a run. I don't know why my sniper ran away. Not health regen, like I said, saved me from the poison, otherwise I would have been dead. I wish my sniper had dropped a static field in that little enclosure that I stopped to fire breathe in. I probably could have gotten a kill there had they done that. Either way, I think we're quite a bit ahead now. We got 19 kills to their 7. If we take a look at the graph, most of this gold is on Froggy G, but you know, why not? If he can do the kills, I can take out the turrets. And I remembered to get my field a few Fury Stacks, but unfortunately the Fury Stacks don't stay when you're attacking the turret, but oh well. And at this point, it's pretty much game over. They're so far behind, and I was like, okay, I can kind of play a little silly. I don't really necessarily need to worry about it. I'm just going to go for the base and try to end it. That damage, though. The great thing about Fury Swipes, it's not per attack, it's per instance of damage, it seems like. So if there's 4 enemies in front of you, and you attack them and hit them all in your one swipe, then you are instantly at your max Fury Swipes. So much damage. No matter Penny's, even though Penny had a huge health pool, she still just completely melted. And there you have it. That is kind of Nibbers in a nutshell. It wasn't my best playing. I don't think my items were the most efficient. As you can see, I started getting some stuff to benefit my Dragon Frenzy. I don't know why I call them Fury. Well, I was calling it Fury Swipes. But when I said Fury Swipes, I meant Dragon Frenzy. I think you guys knew what I was talking about. The 4 stacks, faster damage, more damage. Anyways, that is Nibbers. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I should try to play more Awesomenauts. It's a fun game. It's kind of like a casual MOBA. I'm not the greatest at it, but I enjoy it. I don't play it nearly enough. Dota's Dota, but this is very fun. It's not nearly as toxic, that's for sure. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.